Good morning, everyone. Can I have your attention, please? We would like to begin, so we need a little less clinking. Good morning and welcome to the League's annual meeting and awards ceremony, the event you look forward to each year where we honor our special achievement by many in our field. And while we move through our agenda, please enjoy your breakfast. So you don't have to stop eating, but you can't clink too loud. As you came in, we hope you enjoyed the music provided for us by bass player Max Gerul and Ben Hickson on guitar. Max and Ben are both students at the Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing Arts here in Dallas, and we'll hear them again in a few minutes. Before going further, I just want to express my appreciation, and I think you will all share this, to the Fort Worth Symphony for the wonderful concert that they gave last night, and I'd like us to give them a big round of applause. And, thinking about that concert, I was thinking about all the music that we've heard so far in this conference, and I've heard 11 pieces of music played, and 7 of those works were by living American composers. And, And so how did we get here? It's not how it used to be. And one of the ways we got here to this place is through ASCAP. And ASCAP, I think, I can't remember, it must be 30, 35 years, has been helping orchestras by recognizing the adventuresomeness of their programming. And 35 years ago, that was a long haul. That was tough going. And I think we've made a lot of progress, and we need to be appreciative of their long view of helping us get to this better place. And they, in fact, are our sponsor this morning. And ASCAP ensures that their composer, author, and music publishers are fairly compensated for the public performances of their music and assists music users in complying with federal copyright law through their licensing services. And ASCAP is represented here today by Alan Alexander, the Director of Symphonic and Educational Licensing, and Assistant Vice President for Concert Music, Chia Toscanini. They are located in booth 605 in the exhibit hall, and please stand so we can thank you. Where are you? There they are. Well, it's Friday, so the number of hours remaining for those of you who wish to show appreciation for your days here in Dallas is winding down. So again, our Appreciation Center, in which we will show appreciation to you for a gift, and you can show appreciation to us with a gift, is still right outside and to the right, and we hope you'll pay a visit if you haven't been there before. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce my colleague and good friend, Lowell Nottebohm, Chair of the Board of the League of American Orchestras, who will take us through the annual meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. It's good to be with all of you. Thanks for getting up early and joining us for breakfast and this annual meeting. By way of just an opening comment on the financial side, two things important for you to know. One is that once again, thank you, I'd asked for this just before, excuse me for a moment. The League, for the 12th consecutive year, balanced its budget. Wanted you to know that. We're pleased and proud of it. And most of you know, and many of you were part of the success of what has been over these past several years a $25 million fundraising campaign at the League, the largest single campaign in the League's history. And it has allowed us, because of its success, let me be clear, we closed that campaign a couple of months ago. We raised the full $25 million, and you have been enjoying, and we have been enjoying the benefit of that over these past several years, because those extra dollars have made an enormous difference in the league's ability to deliver program and expand what we do. So thank you to all of you for your part in that. My official reason for being up here briefly this morning is to ask you to approve the proposed slate of directors for the league. And as I do that, I want to say that your league board has continued to grow and develop. This is a very dedicated group of people from across the country: orchestra managers, musicians, composers, music directors, trustees of home orchestras, who tend to the league's business in a very responsible way. Because you have at your place a list of those directors, I will simply read off the names, but not all of their various qualifications. With one exception, there is one name that's not on that list because he was only approved for and agreed to serve very recently and after that list was prepared and in your folders. And that is Burton Alter, who is currently the chairman of the board of the New Haven Symphony and will be joining the league board as of this meeting. As I call off the names, read off the names, for those who are present, I'd appreciate it if you would stand. And Burton, we'll start with you, and then the rest of you see from this list Anj Fada from Buffalo, New York, Jim Hassler from Oakland, John Hayes, who I know is here, from Denver, Jim Mabey from Chicago, Bob Pizer from Houston. Those are the new members, and I think we're going to eventually do this in one slate, so let me also ask you to turn to page 2 of your handout, where you see the names of current trustees who are standing for election for another term: Brent Ossink, whom you all know, John Canning from Westport, Connecticut, Catherine Carlton, who is our ex officio member from from Orchestras Canada, Roland Carter, Bruce Clinton, Helen DeVos, Aaron Flagg, Mark Jung, Robert Levine, Cindy Sargent, Tina Ward, Penny Van Horn. And so I will ask for a motion from the floor to elect that slate of officers to the Board of Trustees of the League. I have the motion. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, the same. Thank you. Congratulations to that new and returning slate of trustees. Before I step down, I want to also acknowledge, again from what you have in your handout, the departure of Bill Stensrud and Elizabeth Warschauer, and to point out some changes in the ex officio membership. Chuck Kegel is stepping down as chair of the Volunteer Council to be replaced by Helen Schaefer. Andrew Clark is stepping down, and Melody Welsh, the past chair of the Youth Orchestra Division, is retiring and will be replaced by Stephen Payne. So much for the official part of the agenda, and enjoy your breakfast, and Jesse will now be back up here to take you through some of the other items. Thank you.
I'd like to use our time together this morning to talk about a subject of great importance to all of us. But first, I'd like to bring you up to date on what has transpired in the last 12 months since we were together last June in Minneapolis. At last year's concerts, I had reported that 2/3 of our orchestras were showing deficits. And I'm very happy to report that a year later that figure is down by less than half. And this is good news, and it reflects improving fiscal management. Closer, okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. So, but orchestras have been facing long-term challenges that we know were exacerbated by this recession, but not ultimately caused by it. And the long-term declines that we've been seeing both in philanthropy and in attendance have continued. Clearly, there is still plenty of hard work to do, and this is not the time to take your foot off the gas pedal. We must keep moving forward, and that means actively embracing and promoting change in our organizations. We began this conference with a presentation from our new friends in the auto industry, who made it clear that in their world, management and labor agreed on a powerful and unifying goal to meet consumer demands for better and more competitive cars. And while there were plenty of differences and problems that they had to sort out, they made sure that their points of shared belief and common ground prevailed over divisive conversations. We heard how that process became a springboard for the success of the company and its employees. So how can we learn from their experiences in a world that might seem quite remote from the performing arts? What higher goals can bind our musicians and managements and boards together so much that they can effectively work through their sometimes competing interests? Last year, I had proposed 3 types of action that are required in orchestras to achieve future sustainability. Those actions were and remain strengthening fiscal infrastructure and planning, realignment with community needs, and fostering creativity. And just as our friends in the auto industry joined together, so do we need to include all of our stakeholders, our musicians, staffs, boards, and volunteers in working toward these goals. And the League, over the past year, has been working hard to find ways to help our members move forward on these priorities. In the face of the great financial strain many of our members were experiencing last year, we developed with the Technical Development Corporation the new SMART tool. And SMART stands for Strategy and Money Alignment Readiness Tool, which gives orchestras a new way to anticipate and plan for both risk and for opportunity. And so far, 10 orchestras have piloted this tool, and I'm encouraged that 40 more have signed on to use it in the coming months. The League has continued to grow an online governance center designed specifically to give orchestras the knowledge and the support that will help them play an effective role in the leadership of their orchestras, from disciplined financial management to developing with their staffs and stakeholders a compelling vision for their futures. In another step forward, we're creating a new conductor seminar together with Robert Spano and the Atlanta Symphony. And that will help emerging conductors bring a wider range of creative expression and thinking across their orchestra organizations. And we've published a new music director search seminar handbook, updated to reflect the new requirements and roles of music directors today. These initiatives will help orchestras make progress in strengthening their financial positions and in nurturing our art form. But during the past year, we've also seen increasing urgency around that third imperative, the challenge to realign with community needs, and this deserves really special attention today. I've titled this speech, Walk the Walk and Talk the Talk. A very overly used cliche, I know, but it happens to describe exactly the conversation that we need to have. To set the scene, I want to share with you a conversation I had in Washington with a very high-level government official who influences large amounts of arts dollars. As I entered the office, before I could sit down, I was confronted with the following opening statement. What is wrong with your members? With 10% unemployment, they go out on strike for more money. Your CEOs are all overpaid and your audiences are all white. Well, that was some conversation starter. I think I said something like, And a good morning to you, too. Can I sit down now? I won't take you through the whole episode, but in case anyone was wondering how we're perceived in high places these days, this should leave no doubt. And by the way, that was not the first time we've heard these concerns from influential people, and even uninfluential people. I'll tell you a brief anecdote. I can't resist sharing this because it's so poignant. And this is, I'm going to report a verbatim conversation I had with a cab driver 2 days ago. I get into a cab in the front of the hotel, and I say, I'd like to go to the Meyerson Center. The driver was a young African-American guy, maybe 25, and he said, is there a concert? And I said, well, not now, but there's a big convention going on of all the orchestras in the country. And I said, are you the conductor? And I said, no, I run the organization. And he said, I love orchestra music. And he pointed to his radio, and he told me the call letters of the station he listens to. I can't remember them, and where it was on his dial. He said, I listen all the time. I just love it so much. So I said, well, have you been to the Dallas Symphony? And he said, oh, no. And I said, well, why not? And he said, it's just too expensive. And I said, well, have you looked at their website? Because there's probably a range of prices for seats, and I bet there's something that you could probably afford. And he said, well, even if that was true, I don't have a tuxedo. And this is a problem for us. So whether in high places or, I don't want to say low places, but in everyday places, we have a perception issue. And as we've told you before, debates are heating up on Capitol Hill, where there are serious questions about the continuation of our preferred tax status. We are classified as nonprofit organizations, but a better term might be public benefit organizations. After all, it's the public benefit we provide. It's the quid pro quo for the tax exemption and our eligibility to receive tax-deductible contributions. The League will continue to advance orchestra's position, but my encounter underscored the need to change negative perceptions of our field. In other words, by walking the walk and talking the talk. So I'm going to devote the rest of my remarks to both what it is we do and what it is we say. So when it comes to doing, I'm very pleased to say that our field as a whole is making terrific progress. In many orchestras, I now see musicians and staff addressing questions like, how do we best use our talent and creativity to serve our community? And what partners and allies do we need do we need in order to ensure real value to more of our community? In fact, I believe we are in the midst of a genuine shift in our value proposition. The old proposition was, we deliver great music, performed at the highest level of standard, and you come hear us, we're great. But a new version is emerging, and it's something like, we, orchestra, musicians, staff, volunteers, board, together we can use the unique orchestral experience to meet a wide range of civic needs, and will make our concert experience more accessible to a broader array of our community members. Let me cite a few examples of this proposition value shift. Here's one that shows how just a regular subscription program can provide public benefit and community engagement. This was a Memphis Symphony concert that exemplified what struck me as an absolute nexus of community and artistry. And this was a Memphis Symphony concert. It began with May Ann Chen speaking for, I think, only 60 seconds before the concert started. And this is what she said. She said, I was born in Taiwan. I've lived in America for 10 years, but I just became a citizen. And when I signed the papers, I had to reflect on what being a United States citizen meant to me. She went on, immediately, this big feeling surged up in me, and the feeling was a sense of hopefulness. That's how she defined what was most important to her about being an American citizen, hopefulness. And suddenly, we heard the rest of this superb all-American program through the ears of a new American, defining her relationship to our country. That relationship between new immigrants and our nation is a hugely vital subject today and a matter of great concern to all Americans. Here's a brand new example. This spring, a group of Detroit Symphony Orchestra musicians conceived a project to strengthen music education in Detroit. Collaborating with the DSO management and Save Our Symphony, they created a new summer music festival that will provide workshops for over 140 high school students taught by DSO musicians, and it will culminate in a side-by-side concert in Orchestra Hall and will also feature concerts for Detroit area audiences. Now here's one final illustration, and this one just breaks all of the rules. This is the Brooklyn Philharmonic's Beethoven Remix project, where they invited local DJs to remix the Eroica Symphony. Now there are three things going on in this, I think. One is we see a bridge to another community of artists and genres. Two, there's an opportunity for those artists to be part of the creative process. And three, there's a potential through this link to expand and re-envision our traditional repertoire. For any of you perhaps horrified by this notion, and I suspect there might be a few, go to the Brooklyn Philharmonic website. You can listen to the remixed works. That may not change your mind, but there's one thing on the website that caught my attention, and you'll see it too. It's a quote from Carl Jung, in which he says that the creative mind plays with the object it loves. These examples demonstrate the wonderful momentum now moving us toward a broader role for orchestras, one that serves both our art form and our communities. As one board member said to me recently, we need to be the souls of our communities. But there's another area where we're not making sufficient progress. Encouraging and embracing diversity with renewed vigor has got to be a priority for the leadership of our orchestras. Let me suggest just one perspective on this very complex subject. As a nation created from the interactions of immigrants with Native Americans and with each other, the United States has made the acceptance of difference a defining value. Our democracy was created to mediate the conflicts that often accompany living this value. Performing artists and arts organizations have a role to play in helping Americans embrace difference. And for me, that starts with the music and the musical experience itself. I believe that diversity is good for orchestral music and the experience of listening to it. The repertoire that we cherish is filled with the influence of different peoples well beyond the borders of Middle Europe. The orchestral repertoire is enriched when talented composers open their ears to the ever-expanding genres that course through America and the world in the 21st century. And I suspect many of us have had that exhilarating concert experience when we feel the excitement of being together in an audience of people who are unfamiliar to us. We also have a responsibility as citizens and as civic institutions to engage with the reality of today's extraordinary diversity. It's no secret that we live in a moment defined by tremendous pressures to divide us, whether by race, by income level, or political persuasion. And we have a choice to make. We can accept this as a condition of our lives today, or we can turn our resources to what we know is the unifying power of music. And I hope that's the choice that we would all want to make. Your boards are the places to begin or strengthen your action. Recently, our board had some very hard and necessary tough conversations with the help of a diversity diagnostic tool from BoardSource. We encourage you to use that or any other tool at the board level to begin clarifying your own orchestra's diversity direction. The League has just introduced on our website a new diversity toolkit for our orchestra members, and this summer we'll be building an online diversity resource center that will include many chronicles of effective practice, and more is coming. For now, I encourage you to visit our website and take advantage of this new toolkit. There is another way that the League can help you walk the walk. And I am very, very pleased to announce today that the Anne and Gordon Getty Foundation has just awarded the League $1.5 million over 3 years to re-grant to you, our members, to support your education and community engagement activity. This is the largest re-granting program the League has ever run, and it aims to give orchestra the resources to help them grow and innovate in this crucial area. The League will capture these experiences and disseminate the results of the funded work. And when you get home on Monday, well, you'll get home before Monday, but on Monday, you can go to our website and you will find more details about application requirements. I should also let you know that this marks the 25th anniversary of the Anne and Gordon Geddes Foundation support of American orchestras. And the support that I just described, this new grant to the League, is over and above the support they have been providing to many of you and your orchestras on an annual basis. So this represents an expansion of their commitment to the orchestra field. And I just have to, it's a funny story I just have to tell. When we started these conversations with Getty, we went back into our files and we looked at the history. And you know that those grants that some of you get, that began 25 years ago, began with a letter to the League saying, we're thinking about supporting the orchestra field and we'd like you to help. And so it's gratifying that 25 years later they've come back to the League and see us as a capable and credible partner in helping to support the orchestra field. That letter was to Kathy French. Kathy, are you here this morning? Did you get up? No. She's in a meeting. She's hunting heads. Okay. Well, I think that providing public benefit is intrinsically good for our communities, for our institutions, our musicians, and our art form. It's also rapidly becoming a practical necessity. So I want to take us now into the talking the talk part. Our language and our messages need to catch up with today's reality. Too much of our language is rooted, oh my gosh. Well, I guess I need to enter the new reality. Anyway, as I was saying, too much of our language is rooted in older definitions of our role and purpose. So if you remember 5 minutes back into my remarks, that board member that I mentioned who said that an orchestra should be the soul of its community, well, guess what? That term is already taken. And here's what I mean. Stephen Tepper is a sociologist at Vanderbilt University, and he's analyzed the language used by various art forms, both commercial and nonprofit, to justify their existence when they experience threats to their survival. Soul and magic are the terms most frequently used by jazz clubs, galleries, and art house cinemas. Nonprofit culture organizations like libraries, radio stations often use the heart metaphor. Destination, Mecca, those were the terms coming out of commercial, popular culture. So what words do orchestras, art museums, opera, ballet, and nonprofit theater use most frequently? Jewels, treasures, and gems. Some of the specific phrases Tepper captured are the crown jewel of museums and the solid gold Cadillac of orchestras. Gold in Cadillacs are symbols of wealth. Crowns, of course, suggest royalty. But I think most of us would agree that these terms and images are not how we think of ourselves, nor how we would like others to think about us. The League has been working hard the past 2 years to develop language and messaging that fits our orchestras for today. We began by researching influential leaders and how they perceive orchestras. And to hone our messaging, we work closely with external partners in the broader nonprofit sector. I want to propose to you an entirely new and perhaps even radical way of defining orchestra's role, a framework that views our role through the lens of service to our communities. This new framework is part of our Public Value Toolkit, which members can go to on our website. You should have these 4 top-level messages at your tables, and I want to read them because they're very different from how we used to think about this before. Number 1, communities want to broaden public access to economic and cultural resources, and orchestras are helping to expand access to music by working collaboratively with more and more diverse communities. Number 2, community health and vitality are urgent public priorities, and orchestras contribute to healthy societies through their increasingly active participation in civic life. And number 3, lifelong learning is essential in the 21st century, and orchestras provide and champion lifelong musical experiences and participation in the creative process. And 4, a citizenry steeped in creativity, excellence, and the ability to navigate differences strengthens our democracy. And orchestras are large groups of people collaborating to inspire audiences through the power of the creative process. Their collective pursuit of high artistic goals in collaboration with cultural and civic partners demonstrates how much humans can achieve when they work together. And the new ideas and sounds that orchestras present help people embrace and understand the unfamiliar. Now, this is a framework. It's not the 10 Commandments. It's not even the 4 Commandments. We invite you to adapt it, to suit to your needs, to let us know what works or doesn't work for you, and to call upon us for support. It's intended as a living document. And you'll no doubt want some time to absorb this and think about it, talk about it back home. I would only point out for now that what I'm sure you've already noticed, that these messages place our orchestras in direct relationship to meeting community and societal needs. To truly fulfill that relationship, we must focus on it throughout our organizations, not just in community engagement departments. And this is a tremendous opportunity to break down the silos and involve many of your constituents and stakeholders. Now, let me be clear. If your orchestra cannot demonstrate how it is living these messages, you should not be using them. But expect to hear many more critiques from donors like the one I heard in Washington. So when we ask ourselves, what shared interests can galvanize us to work together, one answer surely is walking the walk and talking the talk. And that is both playing an authentic civic role and communicating effectively about it. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your morning. Ben and Max, thank you so much. Let's see. We have a brief addition to something we omitted yesterday in talking about scorebig.com, and that is we wanted to let you know that they offer a safe way to move unsold tickets without cannibalizing your full price tickets. That's an important thing to offer. We thank them. And now we're going to move into the award ceremony portion of our breakfast. And this is our moment to acknowledge those in our field who stand at the forefront of best practice, whether in artistry, governance, leadership, or volunteerism. And we begin with the 2012 ASCAP Awards. ASCAP, our session sponsor, has been with us for many years, and their awards provide a tribute to those orchestras that champion new music and living composers, keeping our art form vital and always evolving. In addition to the listing of this year's winners in your celebration book, all of the winning repertoire information is posted on our league website. To announce the winners, I am delighted to welcome ASCAP's Vice President for Concert Music, Chia Toscanini.
Good morning. On behalf of the members of ASCAP, I have the pleasure to present the 2012 Adventurous Programming Awards in recognition of our orchestra colleagues whose performances in the past season featured the music of our time. Would the composer and publisher members of ASCAP that are here today please stand so we can see you? I met a lot of them throughout the conference, but I know some of the composers and publishers might have other meetings, but if you're here, please stand. Through these awards, our members express their gratitude to those who have a strong commitment to our living art form. This has been a most difficult year for all of us, I think, and every organization is looking at its traditional way of doing business and presenting performances and looking to be more efficient with less. In finding new paths, there's also a great renewal and a further commitment to reaching out into one's own community and to finding new solutions and new audiences. That is what makes it also a very exciting time as well as a creative time. The orchestra will prevail. ASCAP now has over 430,000 members who create and publish music representing all music genres and styles. And we have nearly 20,000 concert music members across the United States. We also have thousands of foreign affiliates who rely upon ASCAP to protect the uses of their music throughout the Americas and 5 territories. ASCAP remains the only American performing rights society that is member-owned and governed and that continually leads the way in defense of music creators and their rights. I've been thinking about Morton Gould a lot lately, as he used to present these awards for many years, as did Fran Richard. And Morton and Fran took me to my first Orchestra League conference in the late 80s, and we had a lot of fun. But ASCAP also just honored 29 recipients of the Morton Gould Young Composer Awards this year. We have an annual event called the ASCAP Concert Music Awards, and it was very inspiring, the young kids, and then we also honor others in our field that are real advocates for new music. We recognized conductor David Geyer for his advocacy and dedication to composers and presenting the music of our time. And I remember David spoke to them about working with his symphony in Sioux City with the Native American musicians. Oh, Sioux Falls, sorry. Apologies. And, but it was fascinating how he brought those Native American musicians into the orchestra's family. And it was a moving presentation. The kids enjoyed it very much. We also honored composer George Walker, who is celebrating his 90th birthday. And this is a 90-year-old man who makes me tired when he tells me of his schedule. He had just premiered his recent orchestral work with the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra, and then he was flying to Colorado quickly to record his new violin sonata with his son Gregory, a violinist in Boulder, and then he was running back to Eastman to deliver the commencement address and receive an honorary doctorate. But it was a terrific event, and I can actually remember when Jennifer Hegden got her first Young Composer Award, and it was many years ago. Morton Gould presented it to her, and shortly after that, the foundation and the ASCAP Foundation and the Oregon Symphony commissioned her to write her first orchestral work in honor of Morton's 75th birthday. I do want to say that next year is Morton's centenary year, and it's hard to imagine. We're proud of our long association with the League of American Symphony Orchestras and of this program which recognizes orchestras whose programming is adventurous. We're proud to be partners and colleagues of American orchestras, and in these tough economic times, we have been diligent in assisting those orchestras experiencing financial stress to preserve their ASCAP licenses. My colleagues Alan Alexander and Chris Bailey are here today and will be happy to confer with anyone seeking assistance. I think Alan is here and Chris is back here. For more than 50 years, the members of ASCAP have awarded well over $1 million to adventurous orchestras whose programs prominently feature music written within the past 25 years. We thank the League of American Orchestras for administering the Adventurous Programming Awards with such professionalism. And we thank all of the conductors and musicians who program and rehearse and perform this music with such professionalism. The orchestras selected by a panel convened by the League of American Orchestras are those with a commitment to the music created in our time. And we're here to thank those who commission, perform, record contemporary music. And it is because of them that the continuity of our art form is ensured. Will the representatives of those orchestras that are recognized today stand as their orchestra's name is announced? The list of works performed during the past season for which these programming awards are presented are featured on the website of the League as well as in brochures at your table. Please hold your applause until the list is completed. The John S. Edwards Award for Strongest Commitment to New American Music goes to South Dakota Symphony Orchestra, Delta David Geyer, Music Director. The Morton Gould Award for Innovative Programming, San Francisco Symphony, Michael Tilson Thomas, Music Director. The Leonard Bernstein Award for Educational Programming, Minnesota Orchestra, Ozma Vanska, Music Director. Award for American Programming on Foreign Tours, San Francisco Symphony Youth Orchestra, Donato Cabrera, Music Director. Awards for programming of music written within the past 25 years. Group 1 orchestras. First place goes to Los Angeles Philharmonic, Gustavo Dudamel, Music Director. Second place, Nashville Symphony, Giancarlo Guerrero, Music Director. And third place to the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. Group 2 orchestras. First place, Alabama Symphony Orchestra, Justin Brown, Music Director. Second place, New World Symphony, America's Orchestral Academy, Michael Tilson Thomas, Artistic Director. Third place, Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra, Ariel Reimereit, Music Director. Groups 3 and 4. First place, Chicago Sinfonietta, May Ann Chen, Music Director. It's a good day. Groups 5 and 6. First place, the American Composers Orchestra, Robert Beezer, Artistic Director, George Manahan, Music Director, Derek Brummel, Creative Advisor. Second place goes to Boston Modern Orchestra Project, Gil Rose, Artistic Director. And third place, Peoria Symphony Orchestra, George Steluto, Music Director and Conductor. Group 7 and 8 orchestras. First place, Northwest Symphony Orchestra, Anthony Spain, Music Director. Second place, the Lake Superior Chamber Orchestra, Warren Friesen, Artistic Director and Conductor. And third place, Yakima Symphony Orchestra, Lawrence Golan, the Helen N. Jewett, Music Director. Collegiate orchestras, first place, Cornell University Orchestra, Chris Young Kim, Director of Orchestras. Second place, Ithaca College Symphony Orchestra, Jeffrey Meyer, Director of Orchestras. And third place, Lamont Symphony Orchestra, Lawrence Golan, Music Director and Conductor. Now, youth orchestras. First place, Contemporary Youth Orchestra, Liza Grossman, Music Director. Second place, Chicago Youth Symphony Orchestras, Alan Tinkham, Music Director. In the last category, festivals. First place, Cabrillo Festival of Contemporary Music, Marin Alsop, Music Director and Conductor. I lost my last page. It's the Aspen Symphony. I knew that. I didn't need it, but I'm wondering where my last page went. Robert Spano, Music Director. So I want to thank you all for being here today, and thank you for doing such a terrific job with your orchestras.
The Helen Thompson Award honors in alternate years an executive director and a music director with under 5 years of service in a league professional orchestra who've already distinguished themselves as leaders. We take special pride this year in awarding the Helen Thompson Award to May Ann Chen, music director of the Chicago Sinfonietta and the Memphis Symphony. The league first got to know May Ann in 2003 when we presented her at our Bruno Walter National Conductor Preview. In 2007, she entered our American Conducting Fellows Program, where she worked over 3 seasons with both the Atlanta Symphony and the Baltimore Symphony. Now she's completed 2 seasons as music director with the Chicago Sinfonietta and the Memphis Symphony, and she has lit them both on fire. Mayanne is unable to be with us to accept the award in person, but before we hear from her via video, let's say hello to Nick Inman, VP for Patron Engagement, and interim CEO of the Memphis Symphony, and Jim Hirsch, executive director of the Chicago Sinfonietta, who are proud to work with May Ann and represent their orchestras here today. Jim, you want to stand? And
to my wonderful colleagues gathering at the National League Conference in Dallas, I'm truly honored to share this special moment with all of you as the recipient of the 2012 Helen Thompson Award given by the League of American Orchestras, nominated by my 2 wonderful musical families, the Chicago Sinfonietta and the Memphis Symphony. The League of American Orchestras has been instrumental in every step of my conducting journey. Music changed my life, and it is now my mission to help the orchestras I work with to create meaningful communal experience through pushing the boundaries of expression in concert experience. We're entering a time of challenges more than ever, yet it provides us with an opportunity to create more innovative programmings and to redefine the relationship between the orchestras and their communities in which they serve. I want to thank the League of American Orchestras again, and to all my colleagues who have contributed so much to the success of our industry. So thank you for this great honor.
many of you have been beneficiaries of the League's services to our orchestra board members, thanks to the generous ongoing support of the MetLife Foundation. With their help, seminars, webinars, self-assessment resources, ebooks, and vlogs have come our way. This year, we also saw another round of MetLife governance grants for board development awarded to 5 orchestras who used their grants to strengthen their governance practice. Congratulations to the Central Ohio Symphony, the Kalamazoo Symphony in Michigan, the Lexington Symphony in Massachusetts, the National Philharmonic in Maryland, and the Whatcom Symphony in Washington State. We applaud the important steps you've taken in support of good governance, and would you please stand for a round of applause? now to our orchestra management fellows. We can all take pride in the roles that so many of us play in this program. For over 30 years, this year-long executive training program has identified the emerging leaders who over time have come to shape our field. Today, they serve orchestras all over our country, providing the leadership we count on across the full dimension of orchestra roles. Let's take a moment to offer a round of applause for all of the OMFP alumni who are with us this morning. And can you stand, too? We have two fellows who've just graduated, David Filner and Ian Harwood. Unfortunately, David's recovering from an accident and could not be here, and we wish him a very speedy recovery. But I'm so pleased to welcome Orchestra Management Fellowship alumnus Ian Harwood.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being with us today. And again, David sends his regrets for not being able to be here. As David and I experienced over the past year, David in San Francisco and Birmingham, Alabama, and I in Chicago, and both of us in Aspen, we are in awe of the incredibly hard work that is being done by all of our colleagues. Thank you for your efforts in these tough economic times. Many orchestras all over the world and country are continuing to thrive because of you. Every orchestra that we worked with or visited was very different, but one thing that we take away from the fellowship is that there is no one right way to do things or a one-size-fits all answer for many of the challenges that face our country. Since last June, the two of us combined have heard more than 30 orchestras and have attended more than 150 concerts. It's clear that the music that we love is alive and vibrant. In concert after concert, we heard dedicated and talented musicians perform great music in front of appreciative audiences all over the country. We believe that the overall state of orchestral music making in this country has never been higher. It's a great time to enter the field, as long as David and I can find jobs. As future leaders, David and I have learned that we must be willing to take risks. For every interesting artistic, marketing, fundraising, and programming idea being tested, we heard 4 that were just as good, but not being tried. I personally learned that you can't predict the outcome of a risk and where that might lead you. For me, one of my fellowship assignments was actually filming the Chicago Symphony Orchestra's mascots, Wolfgang and Mozart, on the roof of Orchestra Hall. From those heights, I've personally learned not to fear failure. A good experiment is one from which we can learn, not one that necessarily works. Before the fellowship, I was a biophysicist, and so I can say, scientifically speaking, we must try and try again, as an experiment done once is not really an informative experiment at all. Second, while we must not fear the risks of experimentation, we must approach it carefully. We've heard the words change and innovation used a lot during this past week, but it is important that we use these terms. We must do so constructively. One of the things that we enjoy about this industry is the healthy balance between respect for the past and the eye towards the future. We feel that the challenges that we all face in our careers can be opportunities for us to help the field progress while staying true to our organizations, our missions, and the music that we all love. Our world will continue to change, and we as future managers need to be proactive to make adjustments to our organizations that will work to preserve the highest artistic values while reflecting the realities of the world in which we live today. We believe that change for the sake of change has the potential to sometimes do more harm than it can do good. But assuming that the way that we do things now is the only way is just as dangerous. Another thing that David and I both recognize is that we must build internal alignment within our organizations as well as within our communities, and do our best to foster healthy relationships with all of our stakeholders. Managements, boards, musicians, and audiences all need one another to continue to thrive. It's a symbiotic relationship. As we two fellows embark on our next steps, whatever they may be, we are sure to carry these lessons with us. We are grateful for our journey and for the lessons that we've learned in our experiences, made possible because of the time and support from so many of you, as well as from the League. I'm also pleased today to introduce the next class of fellows, and I'd ask you two to stand. They're wonderful young ladies, Eska Laskas and Agnieszka Rakhmantulev. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian. We're counting on you to save the world. And by the sound of your remarks, I think you have a reasonably good chance. And we'd also like to welcome Eska Laskas and Agnieszka Rakhmantulev to our new orchestra family. So thank you. So where would we be without our volunteers? Probably nowhere. Our orchestra volunteers are the loyal army who provide the critical help that our orchestras need. How many of you this morning are part of the volunteer network in our orchestras? Please stand and accept our applause for the great work you all do. The League's Volunteer Council are about 20 hardy souls who represent the voice of volunteers on a national basis, an essential part of our League infrastructure. They provide counsel to your volunteer leaders, develop learning for their peers, build the conference program that our volunteer constituency is taking part in this week, and identify our Gold Book Award and Roundtable winners. To honor them, please welcome Volunteer Council President Chuck Cagle.
Thank you, Jesse. I cannot tell you what an honor it's been to serve for the past 5 years and let me amend that just a little bit, for a chap from Sweetwater, Tennessee, to work with the League's Volunteer Council and serve this year as its president. If you know where Sweetwater, Tennessee is, you ought to negotiate with Jesse for a free registration next year. I'll be happy to give you directions to get there, but you will need a GPS. It's also a privilege for me to represent my home orchestra, the Nashville Symphony Orchestra, and its affiliate organization, the Nashville Symphony Orchestra League. The greatest privilege I have today is for me to be here representing the vast nationwide network of symphony orchestra volunteers. These volunteer groups are comprised of dedicated individuals who donate thousands of hours of personal time and raise literally millions of dollars in support of symphony orchestras with which they are affiliated. The great weight of anecdotal evidence and personal conversations has convinced me that there are orchestras in existence today which might not survive, or at least could not maintain their present form were it not for the efforts of the volunteer groups who support them. These orchestra volunteer groups deserve our profound thanks for all of their efforts toward the goal of keeping the music alive. My specific task here this morning is to honor three groups of individuals and who are here with us today. The first of those is the Volunteer Council. The Volunteer Council is comprised of 22 nationally recognized community leaders from 17 states who have demonstrated exceptional support for the orchestras in the communities in which they live. For nearly 50 years, the Volunteer Council has been the leader in developing and supporting local symphony orchestra volunteer organizations. The Volunteer Council's programs and services include the Gold Book Online, our newsletter, the Volunteer Notes, email discussion groups, webinars, touch-based phone calls, mentoring for local volunteer groups, arts advocacy, and networking. Probably our most important task is to develop the volunteer programming track for the League's annual conference. Would the members of the Volunteer Council please stand and be recognized? Each year, hundreds of projects are submitted by volunteer leagues and guilds for inclusion in the Council's Gold Book Online. This publication is an excellent online resource containing details of successful local projects on such subjects as fundraising, community engagement, education, organizational leadership, audience development, and membership. The Council members select the best of these annual submissions for formal presentation at conference. This year, 20 projects were selected for roundtable presentations. These presentations are up-close and personal presentations of their projects, and they sit there and submit themselves to questions and answers on the success of those projects and how long it took them to put together, and the efforts in which it took to make their projects successful. Roundtable recipients, would you please stand and be recognized? Nine extraordinary projects were selected to receive our highest award, the Gold Book Award of Excellence. Winners, please stand as I call the name of your project, and we request that the audience hold its applause until all winners have been introduced. First, Instrument Drive for the Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles, presented by Stephanie Klopfich, representing the Committee of Professional Women of the Los Angeles Philharmonic Association. Second, Cavelli Rocks, presented by Jackie Boyd, representing the Dallas Symphony Orchestra League. It's a Great Deal, the Playing Card Project, presented by Betty Oswald, representing the Gulf Coast Symphony Orchestra Guild. The Huntsville Symphony Orchestra Guild's 50th anniversary celebration, presented by Sarah Hereford, representing the Huntsville Symphony Orchestra Guild. The Pleasure of Your Company, presented by Alda Donahue, representing the New West Symphony Orchestra League. Yacht Hop, represented by Jane Hudson and Christina Predneville, representing the Southwest Florida Symphony Society. Sanctuaries in the Sky, presented by Joan Calder and Ruth Condit, representing the Southwest Florida Symphony Society. 10K Run for Music, presented by Mitchell Norgert, representing the Naples Philharmonic League. And a double presentation, Empowering Leadership at the Grassroots Level and the Musical Petting Zoo, Defining Leadership Responsibilities, presented by Ginger Kelly, Linda Weisbrook, Julia Church, Sally Moody, and Jackie Sagenhawk, representing the Symphony Guild of Charlotte. Please visit let's give these folks our appreciation. Please visit thegoldbookonline.org very often. We recommend, my standard line is plagiarize often. These are successful projects, ladies and gentlemen. Use them freely and use them to your success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Even though we're still in the midst of our 2012 conference, we can't adjourn this morning until we issue you a formal invitation to next year's conference. And for that, let's welcome St. Louis Symphony Orchestra Executive Director Fred Bronstein. And Fred's, come on up, Fred. And I just wanted to note that when Fred completes his remarks and we see his video, that will be the end of this session, and we are running late, as some of you may have noticed. So please scurry off to your next sessions and get there as soon as you can. Thanks.
Thanks, Jesse, and I'll be very brief. First of all, I want to just congratulate the League and everybody here in Dallas. I have many good friends here, and so on a great conference this year. We're looking ahead at next year. 2013 is going to be a great year celebration for the St. Louis Symphony. We kick off our season with our first international tour in nearly 15 years, beginning at the Proms and going to the Berlin Festival, Lucerne Festival, and Paris. We'll also then be going to California for a residency at the University of California at Davis, all led by our music director, David Robertson, and concerts throughout that state. And it's going to be a privilege for us to welcome all of you for the League's 68th conference next year in St. Louis. And I have to tell you that this will be the first time in nearly 50 years. I think the last conference was 1966 in St. Louis. Long overdue. We look forward to it. And a word about St. Louis, it is a very surprising and wonderful city. It is passionate about the arts. I can tell you as somebody, I've been there nearly 5 years, and I've been repeatedly astounded by the breadth and the depth of the cultural institutions, from the St. Louis Symphony to the Art Museum to the Pulitzer, the Contemporary, the Black Rep, Jazz St. Louis. The list goes on and on. It's a very, very robust environment for the arts. It is passionate about food. You will eat very well there. It is passionate about sports, especially our 11-time world champion St. Louis Cardinals. Sorry, Texas. Yeah, well, it was great to see you there, but it was also great to see you lose. We are also very passionate about recreation. The St. Louis boasts a world-class zoo, the Missouri Botanical Gardens, and you'll also just be staying literally steps away from the iconic St. Louis, the Arch, the Gateway Arch. It is a city that is deeply passionate about music. As a leading cultural institution, the St. Louis Symphony is 133 years old. It's the second oldest orchestra in the United States, and it realizes great support in the community. But better than, it occurs to me that many of you have probably not heard the orchestra live, although you may know it through recordings. But this will be an opportunity for you to hear the orchestra live, and far better than I can communicate. Here's a sample of the St. Louis Symphony experience.
It's our job to tell people to follow their dreams.
Every time you hear a concert, something should move you inside.
In order for someone to really understand what we do, you have to hear it live.
Listening to a concert and having a moment like that, this is a reason to live.
That's what makes live music so special.
Look to the orchestra as the place to come for an adventure.
See what happens when you are in the equation.
On behalf of the St. Louis Symphony, and most importantly, the city of St. Louis, we look forward to welcome you next June 2013. Thanks so much.
Okay, so go quick like bunnies to your next sessions. Bye-bye.